Lorenzo, a determined 20-year-old, always knew he was adopted, and his relationship with his adoptive mother, Gloria, was built on love and trust. But everything changes when a job interview unravels a hidden mystery. Wearing a necklace that once belonged to his biological mother, Lorenzo's interview takes a shocking turn when his potential employer recognizes the piece as his long-lost daughter's. As secrets from the past resurface, Lorenzo finds himself on a journey to uncover the truth about his origins, leading to a story filled with unexpected revelations and heartfelt emotions. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell to avoid missing any videos. The young man adorned himself with his mother's cherished necklace for what he hoped would be a life-changing job interview. Little did he know that this simple act would lead to a moment so charged with emotion that it would render his future boss utterly speechless, frozen in place by the sight of the familiar jewelry. Lorenzo, a vibrant 20-year-old, had always known he was adopted. His adoptive mother, Gloria, had never concealed the truth from him. She had, however, done her best to shield him from the harshest realities of his past. Their home in Hermosillo was filled with warmth and trust, a bond strengthened by the deep love and gratitude Lorenzo felt for the woman who had given him everything. One late afternoon, as the sun cast golden hues through the kitchen window, Gloria's voice broke the usual calm of their home. "Lorenzo, sweetheart, we need to talk," she said, her words laced with a soft urgency that made Lorenzo's heart tighten. He sensed that this conversation would be significant, perhaps even life-altering. He took a seat at the kitchen table, his eyes fixed on Gloria's face, reading the concern etched into her features. "What's on your mind, Mom?" he asked gently, always attuned to her emotional state, ever eager to ease her burdens. Gloria joined him at the table, her hands trembling slightly as she took him into hers. "There's something about your past that I've kept from you, something I couldn't bear to tell you until now," Gloria confessed, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Lorenzo felt a pang of dread, a heavy knot forming in his chest as he braced himself for what was to come. "Whatever it is, I'm here, Mom. You can tell me?" he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil swirling inside him. He squeezed her hands, trying to offer comfort in the face of her visible anguish. "You've always known you were adopted, but I never told you why your birth mother left you," Gloria began, her voice cracking under the weight of the truth she was about to reveal. She paused, drawing a deep breath. "Your biological mother. She struggled with severe mental health issues. She wasn't able to care for you, so she left you, abandoned, alone on the street. When I found you, I knew I couldn't leave you there. I took you in, and from that moment on, you were my son." Lorenzo sat in stunned silence, the revelation crashing over him like a wave. He had always wondered about his origins, and why his biological parents had given him up, but he had never imagined this. I don't know what to say," he finally whispered, his voice tinged with both sorrow and relief. "I understand this is a lot to take in, my love," Gloria said, her voice trembling with emotion. "But from the moment I held you in my arms, you became my world. I've done everything I could to protect you, to give you the best life possible." Tears welled up in Lorenzo's eyes as he gazed at the woman who had given him not just a home but a life filled with unconditional love. "I love you, Mom. You've given me more than I could ever ask for. I'm so grateful for everything you've done," he said, his voice thick with emotion as he pulled her into a tight embrace. "I love you too, Lorenzo. No matter what, you will always be my son," Gloria whispered, her voice soft yet filled with fierce, protective love. They clung to each other for a long time, sharing the weight of the painful truth that had finally been spoken. Lorenzo couldn't help but think about how different his life might have been if Gloria hadn't found him that fateful day. He knew her journey hadn't been easy, but she had never wavered in her devotion to him. As they finally pulled apart, Gloria looked deep into his eyes, her gaze filled with pride and tenderness. "You're an incredible young man, Lorenzo. No matter where you came from, I know you'll never forget who you are," she said with conviction. "Never, Mom. I'll continue to make you proud," Lorenzo promised, a determined smile playing on his lips. He knew that despite the challenges, he had a foundation of love and strength, thanks to Gloria. The morning of his interview arrived, and Lorenzo prepared with both nervous anticipation and a touch of excitement. His mother's influence had always made him conscious of his appearance, and today was no different. As he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie and smoothing his shirt, his eyes fell upon the small wooden box where Gloria kept her collection of antique jewelry. Nestled among the treasured pieces was a delicate necklace with a brilliant blue stone, its beauty captivating him. "This will be perfect," Lorenzo murmured to himself, carefully placing the necklace around his neck. The moment it touched his skin, he felt an odd sense of confidence wash over him, as if the necklace held some kind of power, a special charm that would guide him through the day. Descending the stairs, Lorenzo found Gloria in the kitchen, busy with breakfast preparations. But when she looked up and saw the necklace around his neck, she froze, her eyes widening in shock. The room seemed to be still as they both stood there, caught in a moment that neither of them fully understood yet. "Lorenzo, why are you wearing that necklace?" Gloria's voice trembled ever so slightly, betraying her calm demeanor. Lorenzo, completely oblivious to the weight behind her words, casually responded, "I found it among your things, Mom. It's really beautiful, and I thought it would look great with my outfit for the interview." He flashed a reassuring smile, hoping to ease any worry she might have had. Gloria forced a smile in return, but Lorenzo noticed something in her eyes, a flicker of unease that he couldn't quite place. "Mom, are you okay? You seem off," he asked, his brow furrowing as he tried to gauge her reaction. Gloria quickly shook her head, dismissing the thought. "I'm fine, sweetheart. It's just that necklace is very special to me. Please, take good care of it, all right?" Her voice wavered slightly, betraying the tension she tried to hide. "Of course, Mom. I promise I'll be careful with it," Lorenzo replied, leaning in to give her a warm hug before heading out the door. "She's really worried about this necklace," he thought to himself as he grabbed his things. Gloria stood in the doorway, watching him leave, her eyes locked on the necklace around his neck. A shadow of concern clouded her face. She knew that necklace held stories Lorenzo was unaware of, stories she had kept hidden. "I hope this doesn't lead to something I can't protect him from," she whispered under her breath, anxiety gripping her heart. Meanwhile, Lorenzo, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface, walked with a renewed sense of confidence toward his interview. The necklace hung lightly against his chest, almost like a talisman of good luck. Little did he know that this seemingly innocent accessory was about to set off a chain of events that would forever alter the course of his life. As Lorenzo entered the interview room, he was filled with nervous anticipation. This was his chance, and he was determined not to let it slip through his fingers. "Good morning, Mr. Salazar. Thank you for meeting with me," he greeted, his voice carrying a mix of excitement and apprehension. His heart pounded in his chest as he sat down, unconsciously adjusting the necklace. A gift from Gloria, his adoptive mother. Mr. Salazar, a man in his 50s with a stern expression, opened Lorenzo's resume folder. But as he lifted his gaze, his face drained of color. His eyes widened in disbelief, and the air in the room seemed to grow heavy with tension. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. "That necklace, it belonged to my daughter Pilar," Mr. Salazar finally uttered, his voice trembling with a mix of shock and anguish. "She disappeared 20 years ago," he continued, his eyes fixed on the necklace as if he were staring at a ghost. The pain in his voice was palpable, reverberating through the room and striking Lorenzo like a blow. Lorenzo's mind raced, unable to comprehend how something so simple could trigger such a profound reaction. "Mr. Salazar, I don't understand. This necklace was given to me by my adoptive mother, Gloria," he stammered, feeling a cold knot of fear tighten in his chest. How could this be possible? His thoughts spiraled, desperately seeking a rational explanation. Mr. Salazar, visibly shaken, took a deep breath and tried to steady himself. Tell me more about your adoptive mother, Gloria, he requested. His voice still laced with trembling uncertainty, but now infused with a determination to uncover the truth. He needed answers that Lorenzo unknowingly held. Lorenzo began recounting his story, his voice tinged with a mix of reverence and confusion. Gloria, she's always been the most caring person in my life. She raised me on her own from the time I was a baby. She didn't speak much about my past, just that I was special to her, he shared, his mind flashing back to countless moments of love and nurturing. But why would she have Pilar's necklace? The question echoed in his mind, rattling the very foundation of everything he thought he knew. As he spoke, Mr. Salazar listened intently, piecing together the fragments of a long-buried mystery. The room, once filled with the tension of a routine job interview, now buzzed with the weight of a past that neither man had anticipated confronting that day. At that moment, the necklace became more than just a piece of jewelry. It became a bridge between two lives, a link to a history that was about to unravel in ways neither Lorenzo nor Mr. Salazar could have ever imagined. Salazar listened intently, his gaze never wavering from the necklace around Lorenzo's neck. His voice, heavy with emotion, broke the silence. That necklace was a gift from my father to Pilar, my daughter. She always wore it, and after she disappeared, it was gone too. We never had any trace of her. Until now, he said, his words trembling with a mix of sorrow and disbelief. Lorenzo felt a strange connection to the story, a deep resonance with Salazar's pain. I had no idea the necklace carried such a history. For me, it was just a symbol of my mother's love, he said, his mind racing with questions. There must be more to my past that Gloria never told me, he thought, a mixture of fear and curiosity rising within him. The room grew heavy with unspoken emotions, the silence nearly suffocating. Salazar's eyes filled with a blend of hope and desperation as he spoke again. Lorenzo, we have to find out the truth about this necklace and what happened to my daughter. Will you help me? His voice was pleading, and Lorenzo could feel the weight of Salazar's request pressing down on him. Of course, sir. I'll do whatever it takes to uncover the truth. If my adoptive mother knows anything, I need to know it too, Lorenzo replied, his determination solidifying. This might be my chance to understand my past and bring peace to a family that's been suffering for years, he thought, a new resolve taking root in his heart. The two men stood, sealing a silent pact to pursue the truth together. Lorenzo knew that this journey would change his life forever. What began as a simple job interview had now become a mission to unravel secrets long buried in the past. Lorenzo returned home, his mind swirling with questions. The image of Mr. Salazar's shocked expression when he saw the necklace haunted him. Who was Pilar? Why didn't Gloria ever mention anything about her? He pondered as he walked back. With each step, his anxiety grew. He knew he needed answers, and he needed them now. When he entered the house, Lorenzo found Gloria sitting in the living room, engrossed in a book. She looked up with a warm smile as he came in. "How was the interview, dear?" she asked, her voice filled with genuine care. "It was interesting," Lorenzo replied, trying to keep his tone neutral, but he couldn't hold back. "Mom, I need to ask you something about this necklace I'm wearing." Gloria's eyes flicked to the necklace, and a shadow of nervousness crossed her face. "Of course, son. What do you want to know?" she asked, her voice calm, but Lorenzo could hear the subtle tremor beneath her words. Mr. Salazar, the interviewer, said this necklace belonged to his daughter, Pilar, who disappeared 20 years ago. "Do you know who Pilar is?" Lorenzo asked directly, watching his mother's reaction closely. Gloria's eyes darted away from his, and she hesitated. "No, I don't know anyone by that name," she answered, but her voice quivered slightly. A chill ran down Lorenzo's spine. "She's hiding something," he thought, the certainty of it gnawing at him. "But, Mom," he was so sure. He said it was a gift from her father. "Are you certain you don't know anything about this?" Lorenzo pressed, crossing his arms as he awaited a more convincing answer. Gloria's demeanor shifted abruptly. She stood up, visibly irritated. Lorenzo, it's just a necklace. There are thousands of necklaces like this one. It's probably just a coincidence, she snapped, her voice rising before she caught herself and took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Now, let's talk about something else. Have you thought about what you're going to wear tomorrow? She asked, desperately attempting to change the subject. Lorenzo noted the sudden change in her behavior and the way she was evading his questions. She's hiding something important, he thought, but decided not to push her any further, for now. He knew that pressing her at this moment might only drive her deeper into silence. Instead, he resolved to find another way to uncover the truth. Yes, Mom. I've already thought about it. I'll wear the blue shirt you like, Lorenzo replied, trying to shift with the new topic, though his mind was still entangled in the mysterious story of the necklace. Gloria's smile softened with relief. Perfect. You'll look great in it. How about we celebrate tonight with your favorite meal? Something special, she suggested, hoping to lighten the mood. Lorenzo nodded, though his thoughts remained fixated on Pilar and the secrets his mother might be keeping. That sounds great, Mom. I'd love that, he answered, forcing a smile. Despite the warmth of their conversation, Lorenzo was resolved. I won't give up on finding out the truth, he thought. He knew pushing Gloria further right now would only close her off, so he decided to bide his time. Gloria, on the other hand, kept the conversation flowing with lighthearted chatter, steering clear of anything that might raise suspicion. Lorenzo listened, but his mind was already racing ahead, planning his next steps. He would uncover the truth, just not now. Later, Lorenzo sought out Mr. Salazar, determined to follow the thread of Pilar's story. He found Salazar sitting in a quiet cafe in town, sipping his coffee with a contemplative expression. Lorenzo didn't waste any time. Mr. Salazar, we need to talk. I think we both want to understand more about this necklace and what happened, he said, his voice steady. Salazar met Lorenzo's serious gaze with a nod, his resolve clear. You're right, Lorenzo. We can't let this go. There's something important here, something we need to uncover, he replied. We should start by looking through the oldest documents your mother has. There might be something there that gives us a clue, he suggested, already formulating a plan. Lorenzo agreed, knowing this was the only way forward. Yes, let's do that. Whatever we find, I need to know the truth about my mother and Pilar, Lorenzo said, though a flicker of fear crossed his mind. I just hope this doesn't tear our family apart, he thought, worried about what they might uncover. Back at the house, Lorenzo and Salazar began sifting through Gloria's belongings. The attic was filled with boxes, each one packed with documents, photos, and mementos from the past. Lorenzo felt uneasy going through his mother's things, but he knew it had to be done. Here are some old photos. Let's see if we can find anything useful, Lorenzo said, opening a wooden box that Gloria had tucked away in a dusty corner. As he flipped through the pictures, a wave of nostalgia hit him. Seeing his mother's youthful face stirred a deep sense of sadness. But then, something caught his eye. Lorenzo froze, staring at one photo in particular. Mr. Salazar, look at this, he said, his voice thick with shock as he handed the picture over. The photo showed a young Gloria, arm in arm with another woman, a woman who looked strikingly similar to the description Salazar had given of Pilar. They were smiling and happy, and the bond between them was undeniable. Salazar took the photo and his face went pale. My God, that's Pilar. But who is this woman with her? He asked, though he already had an inkling. His mind was reeling, trying to make sense of it all. Lorenzo felt a cold chill run down his spine as the pieces of the puzzle began to come together. The revelation was profound, yet it opened up even more questions. What had happened between these two women? How was Gloria connected to Pilar's disappearance? The photo was proof that Gloria had known Pilar, but what did that mean for the secrets she'd been keeping? Lorenzo's heart pounded as he realized they were on the verge of uncovering something life-altering. Whatever the truth was, it would change everything. That's my adoptive mother. Gloria always told me she didn't know Pilar. Why would she lie about that? Lorenzo asked, his voice heavy with betrayal. His mind raced with questions. What else is she hiding from me? The realization that his entire life might be built on lies left him reeling. Salazar looked at Lorenzo, his expression serious and conflicted. Pilar never mentioned a friend named Gloria. I had no idea they knew each other. This changes everything, he said, his voice laced with disbelief. The weight of the discovery pressed down on him, too. He felt deceived by the omission of such a crucial detail. Lorenzo shook his head, still trying to process the situation. I don't understand, sir. Why would my mother hide something like that? He asked, his voice cracking with emotion. He clutched another photo, this one showing Gloria and Pilar in a park, looking like the best of friends. She must have had her reasons, he thought, but the pain of her betrayal was impossible to ignore. Salazar sighed deeply, staring at the photos in his hands. We don't know yet, Lorenzo, but we need to keep investigating. There are more secrets here than we can imagine, he said, his tone grim. We need to be prepared for what we're going to discover. Lorenzo nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. You're right. Let's keep searching. I won't rest until I find out the truth, he declared, his resolve firm. My life will never be the same, he thought, feeling the weight of the revelations yet to come. As they continued digging through Gloria's belongings, Lorenzo and Salazar unearthed more photos, documents, and mementos that painted a picture of a life filled with secrets. Each discovery only fueled Lorenzo's drive to uncover the truth about his adoptive mother and Pilar. Finally, Lorenzo and Salazar knew they couldn't delay confronting Gloria any longer. Armed with the evidence they had found, they decided to face her. Mom, we need to talk, Lorenzo said, holding the incriminating photos. His attempt to stay calm was betrayed by the tension in his voice. Gloria, busy in the kitchen, turned to face them. Of course, Lorenzo. What's wrong? She asked, her smile faltering as she noticed the photos in his hands. Her expression quickly shifted to one of nervousness. We found these photos, Mom. You told me you didn't know Pilar, but here you are, clearly friends. Why did you lie to me? Lorenzo demanded, his voice trembling as he sought to understand her deception. Gloria's face went pale, and she began to stammer. I didn't lie. There must be some mistake, she said, but the wavering in her voice revealed her uncertainty. Lorenzo and Salazar could see that she was trying to buy time. It's no use, Gloria. The proof is right here. You and Pilar were friends. Why did you hide that? Salazar pressed, his voice a mix of pain and barely controlled anger. He needed answers. Under the weight of their scrutiny, Gloria finally broke down. I was jealous of Pilar. She had everything I always wanted, beauty, and the man I loved. In a moment of desperation, I took revenge on her. I raised you, Lorenzo, as my son to fill the void in my life. Gloria confessed, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. Lorenzo felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. Did you raise me out of revenge? He asked, his voice hollow with shock. The life he had known was unraveling before his eyes, and he struggled to process the gravity of Gloria's confession. Gloria's words left Lorenzo and Salazar stunned. However, Salazar's mind was still racing with questions. But how can Lorenzo be Pilar's son? She wasn't pregnant when she disappeared, he asked, his voice sharp as he tried to piece together the puzzle. Gloria, still sobbing, spoke with difficulty. Pilar was hiding her pregnancy from everyone. She was afraid of how you would react. Lorenzo's father was Rodrigo, my ex-boyfriend. Pilar, she took him from me, Gloria admitted, her voice thick with bitterness and sorrow. Salazar's confusion turned to outrage. Rodrigo left you for Pilar, and you have the nerve to call my daughter a viper? He shouted, his rage boiling over. I would never have done that to her. Pilar was a good and fair person. The room fell silent, the weight of Gloria's revelations hanging heavy in the air. Lorenzo, still grappling with the enormity of what he had just learned, felt a surge of emotions. Anger, sadness, betrayal, and a deep, aching emptiness. His world had been irrevocably changed, and the truth, though painful, was only just beginning to surface. Lorenzo watched the heated discussion unfold with a growing sense of disbelief. The reality of his origins was far more complex and painful than he had ever imagined. Gloria nodded, tears streaming down her face, as she tried to explain her actions. "Son, your father left me to be with Pilar. She had everything I wanted but couldn't have. In a moment of weakness, I did something I've regretted every day since," Gloria confessed, her voice choked with guilt and sorrow. Salazar, unable to contain his anger, stood up abruptly, his voice filled with disgust. "You destroyed my daughter's life because of your sick jealousy," he spat, his words cutting through the tension in the room. "You have no idea the pain you caused." Lorenzo, struggling to remain calm, felt torn between the woman who had raised him with love and the biological grandfather who had lost his daughter in such a tragic way. How do I reconcile these two worlds? He wondered, desperately searching for answers. As the revelations continued to unfold, Lorenzo's thoughts turned to his biological father, a figure he had always wondered about but never truly known. The new information raised more questions than answers. With a trembling voice, he asked, "Mom, where's Rodrigo now? And why did you never tell me he was my father?" His need to understand the full story, no matter how painful, was overwhelming. Gloria, still sobbing, looked at Lorenzo with tear-filled eyes. "Rodrigo left shortly after Pilar disappeared. I thought that if she was gone, he would stay with me. That's why I made Pilar disappear, but it didn't work. It only brought more pain," she confessed, her voice thick with regret. Lorenzo felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "So, he doesn't know I exist? He doesn't know he has a son?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of betrayal and hurt. The rage and sadness within him continued to grow, threatening to overwhelm him. Gloria shook her head slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "No, he doesn't know. Rodrigo knew I was pregnant, but he never knew you were born. He was so obsessed with finding Pilar that he hid that from you too," she admitted, her words cutting through Lorenzo like a knife. Tears rolled down Lorenzo's face as he realized the extent of the lies. "You raised me in a web of lies, Mom. I always thought you were the most honest person in the world, but now I don't know what to believe," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. Everything he had believed in had crumbled before him, leaving him devastated. Salazar, who had been watching the exchange in silence, finally spoke, his voice filled with contempt. "Gloria, you had no right to do this. You destroyed Pilar's life and deprived Lorenzo of knowing his father. You deprived me of knowing my grandson. I can't believe someone could be so cruel." Lorenzo looked at Gloria with pain and disbelief in his eyes. "And you lied about my biological mother, too. You said she had mental problems and that I was abandoned as a newborn. How could you fabricate such a terrible lie?" he asked, his voice shaking with the weight of his emotions. Salazar's pain was palpable as he spoke again, his voice breaking. "Not only did you deprive Lorenzo of his father, but you also took away his chance to know his grandfather. I've suffered every day since Pilar disappeared. Raising my grandson would have been a blessing, a way to keep a part of her alive. But you stole that from me." The room fell into a heavy silence, the air thick with the weight of Gloria's confessions. But Salazar, still reeling from the revelations, needed more answers. "What happened to Pilar, Gloria? What did you do to my daughter?" he demanded, his voice trembling with both fear and rage. Gloria's voice quivered as she finally confessed, "We kidnapped her." The words hung in the air, leaving Salazar in a state of shock. "We? So there was someone else involved? An accomplice?" Salazar asked incredulously, his mind struggling to comprehend the depths of the betrayal. Gloria nodded slowly, her tears falling freely now. "Yes, Jorge helped me. He was an old enemy of your family. Jorge wanted revenge for the death of his brother, Ricardo, in an accident caused by you, Mr. Salazar. He used me to get close to your family and to exact his revenge," she explained, her voice filled with regret. Salazar's mind raced back to that fateful night. It was a rainy night. My car had a brake problem. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I never wanted to hurt anyone, he murmured, the guilt from that moment resurfacing and weighing heavily on his heart. The revelations had shattered everyone in the room. Lorenzo, torn between the love he had for Gloria and the truth he had uncovered, felt his world unraveling. Salazar, overwhelmed with grief for his lost daughter and the years stolen from him, struggled to come to terms with the magnitude of the betrayal. In that moment, they all realized that the truth, painful as it was, had only just begun to emerge. The journey ahead would be fraught with more heartache, but it was a journey they would have to face together if they were ever to find peace. Lorenzo was overwhelmed by the revelations, his mind spinning as he tried to process the extent of Gloria's actions. He could see the twisted love and desperation that drove her to commit such terrible deeds, but it did not diminish the pain and betrayal he felt. Salazar, still standing, clenched his fists as he fought to contain his anger. "You took everything from me," he said in a voice filled with anguish. "My daughter, my grandson, and all the years we could have spent together. You left Pilar to suffer alone, and now she wanders the streets, lost and broken." Gloria nodded, her tears flowing freely. "I know I can never make up for what I've done, but I never wanted it to end like this. I thought I was protecting myself, but all I did was destroy lives," she admitted, her voice barely audible. Lorenzo, struggling to reconcile the woman who raised him with the one who had caused so much pain, finally spoke. "Mom, I know you loved me in your way, but that love was built on lies and cruelty. You took my mother from me, and my father never even knew I existed. How can I ever forgive that?" he asked, his voice breaking. Gloria could only sob, unable to offer any defense. The weight of her actions pressed down on her, and she knew that she had lost everything she held dear. Salazar turned to Lorenzo, his face etched with sorrow. "We must find Pilar. She deserves to know the truth, and she deserves a chance at peace, even after all this time," he said, his voice firm. Lorenzo nodded, knowing that this was the only path forward. "Yes, we need to find her. She needs to know that she wasn't forgotten, that her son is here and wants to know her," he said, his resolve growing. As the three of them stood in that room, the past hung heavy over them. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with the scars of the past, but there was a sliver of hope that perhaps, somehow, they could begin to heal the wounds that had festered for so long. With a heavy heart, Lorenzo looked at Gloria one last time. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but I will try. For Pilar's sake and mine," he said softly, turning toward the door. Salazar followed him, leaving Gloria alone with the weight of her sins. Their journey to find Pilar had begun, but the emotional scars would remain with them forever. Salazar and Lorenzo stood at the edge of the park, their eyes scanning the area with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The small park was a peaceful spot, with trees providing shade and a few benches scattered around. They had followed the lead from the resident with a growing sense of urgency, their hearts pounding with the hope that this could be the moment they had been waiting for. As they walked through the park, Salazar's mind raced with the weight of the past years. Each step felt heavy with the burden of lost time and the pain of not knowing what had happened to his daughter. Lorenzo, holding Pilar's necklace tightly in his hand, felt a similar mix of emotions: anticipation, fear, and a deep yearning to finally be reunited with his mother. The park was quieter than usual, with only a few people enjoying the afternoon sun. Lorenzo and Salazar approached the area where the resident had last seen Pilar. The shadows of the trees danced on the ground as they moved closer to a small bench tucked away in a secluded corner of the park. And then, Lorenzo saw her. A woman sat alone on the bench, her posture slumped and her clothes worn. Her hair, though still full, had grown unruly, and her face was marked by the passage of time and hardship. Lorenzo's heart skipped a beat. The resemblance was unmistakable. "Pilar," Lorenzo called out softly, his voice trembling with emotion. The woman looked up slowly, her eyes reflecting a mix of confusion and recognition. The weight of the years had not dimmed the familiar features that Lorenzo had seen in old photographs. Pilar's eyes, though clouded with uncertainty, held the same warmth and vulnerability that Lorenzo had always imagined. As Lorenzo took a few tentative steps forward, Pilar's expression softened. She squinted, trying to make sense of the sight before her. I think I know you," she said hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. Lorenzo's emotions surged. "Mom, it's me, Lorenzo. We've been searching for you. We want to bring you home." Pilar's eyes filled with tears as she stood up, her movements slow and deliberate. "Lorenzo? My God, I never thought I'd see you again," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. She reached out a trembling hand, and Lorenzo grasped it gently, his tears threatening to fall. Salazar, standing nearby, watched the reunion with a mixture of relief and sorrow. His heart ached for the years he had missed with his daughter and grandson, and the sight of Pilar, still alive but so worn by her trials, only deepened his sense of loss and regret. He stepped forward and extended his hand to Pilar. "Pilar, I'm Salazar. I'm so sorry for everything that's happened. We're here to help you." Pilar looked at Salazar with wide, tearful eyes. "Mr. Salazar? I don't know what to say. I've been so lost." Salazar's voice was gentle but firm. "We'll get you the help you need, Pilar. You don't have to be alone anymore. We've been through so much to find you. And now that we have, we want to make sure you're safe and cared for." Lorenzo took Pilar's arm gently, guiding her away from the bench. "We've got a place for you to stay, and we'll make sure you get everything you need. Let's start by getting you some medical attention, and then we can talk more about everything that's happened." As they walked with Pilar, Salazar and Lorenzo shared a glance. The road ahead would be long, filled with the challenge of healing the wounds inflicted by the past. But in this moment of reunion, there was a sense of cautious hope. The pain of the past could not be erased, but the chance to rebuild and find peace was a step toward a better future. They took Pilar to a nearby medical facility where she could receive the care she needed. The doctors assessed her condition and provided treatment for her physical and mental well-being. Lorenzo stayed close by, offering support and comfort, while Salazar worked on arranging for a more permanent and supportive living arrangement for Pilar. Over the following days, Lorenzo and Salazar made sure that Pilar was well taken care of, arranging for therapy and counseling to help her process the trauma she had endured. They worked to ensure that Pilar was surrounded by a support network that could help her begin the healing process. As they sat together one evening, Lorenzo, Pilar, and Salazar shared a quiet moment of reflection. Pilar, though still fragile, began to open up about her experiences. She spoke of her fears, her regrets, and the anguish she had felt during her years of separation. "I never wanted things to end up like this," Pilar said, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to be with my family, but everything went so wrong. I don't know how to make up for all the lost time." Lorenzo reached out and took Pilar's hand. "We can't change the past, but we can move forward together. We're a family, and we'll face whatever comes next as a family." Salazar nodded in agreement. "We have a chance to start anew, Pilar. Let's make the most of it. We owe it to ourselves to heal and find some semblance of peace." As the days turned into weeks, Pilar began to show signs of improvement. The emotional support from Lorenzo and Salazar, combined with professional care, helped her regain some sense of stability and hope. The scars of the past would remain, but Pilar, Lorenzo, and Salazar found solace in the knowledge that they had come together to face the future as a family. Though the healing journey was far from over, the reunion marked the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where the bonds of the family could be mended, and the lessons of the past could pave the way for a more hopeful future. Jorge laughed bitterly, his cruel smile making Lorenzo cringe. "But don't think that I will make things easier for you," he replied, his voice dripping with venom. Lorenzo, feeling a wave of anger and desperation, implored, "Please, Jorge, we just want to know where she is. She is my mother." Jorge's smile remained cold and calculating. "I will never tell you where she is. You will never find her," he said with a sadistic satisfaction, seeming to revel in their suffering. This is not a game, Jorge. You destroyed our lives and you need to pay for it. If you have any shred of humanity left in you, tell us where Pilar is, Salazar demanded, his eyes blazing with a mix of anger and desperation. Jorge shrugged indifferently. They can keep searching, but they will never find her. And even if they do, she will not be the same Pilar you knew, he said with contempt, his voice dripping with malice. Turning to Salazar, Jorge's expression darkened further. You deserve to suffer, Salazar. You killed my brother. Now you're experiencing the same pain I felt, he added, his voice laced with venomous satisfaction. Salazar, struggling to maintain his composure, defended himself. It was not your fault, Jorge. It was an accident. Pilar never wanted to hurt anyone. She does not deserve to suffer like this, he said, his voice filled with anguish as he tried to reason with Jorge. Jorge's laughter was bitter and cold. Accident? I told my late brother you took everything from me. Now I've taken everything from you? He retorted, his eyes flashing with a mix of hatred and triumph. Desperate and feeling the weight of his helplessness, Salazar reached for his phone and called the police. When they arrived, he explained the situation and requested their assistance in questioning Jorge. However, the lack of concrete evidence made the situation complex. There is not enough evidence to arrest Jorge. Without proof that Pilar is alive or a specific location, we can't take further action, one of the officers said, shaking his head in frustration. Lorenzo felt a deepening sense of hopelessness. How can we find my mother if he won't help us? He thought, his gaze fixed on Jorge with a mix of anger and pleading. Jorge slowly stood up, his cruel smile unwavering. You will fail. You will never find Pilar. I will continue living my life indifferent to your suffering, he said, his voice echoing with a chilling finality before he turned and walked back into his house, leaving Salazar and Lorenzo standing outside, grappling with the harsh reality of their situation. As they stood in stunned silence, Salazar placed a comforting hand on Lorenzo's shoulder. We are not giving up, Lorenzo. We will keep searching. Somehow we will find Pilar, he said firmly, though his voice was tinged with pain. Lorenzo, fighting back tears, nodded resolutely. Yes, grandfather. We can't give up. No matter how hard it gets, we must continue, he replied with renewed determination. The two men walked away from Jorge's house, feeling the weight of their frustration, but also the steely resolve to keep pushing forward. They returned to their small hotel, each step weighed down by the crushing sense of futility. The next day, as they were preparing to continue their search, an old man with a worried expression knocked on the door of their hotel room. His face was lined with age and concern, and his eyes held a glimmer of hope. Are you Lorenzo and Salazar? The man asked urgently. Yes, we are. Who are you? Lorenzo inquired, curiosity and hope mingling in his voice. My name is Vicente. I was friends with Gloria for a long time and also knew Jorge. I think I might have information that could help you find Pilar, Vicente said quietly, but with a firm conviction in his voice. Salazar, sensing a potential breakthrough, invited Vicente in. Please come in. What do you know about Pilar and Jorge? He asked, trying to mask his anxiety. Vicente took a deep breath, his face grave. Jorge always had a secret hideout in a remote neighborhood of the city. It's a hard-to-find place. If Pilar was taken somewhere, she was likely brought there, Vicente explained, offering a glimmer of hope. Lorenzo's heart raced at the mention of this new lead. Can you guide us there? He asked, his voice barely containing his excitement and anxiety. Vicente nodded firmly. Yes, I can. It's an isolated place, but I know the way. Jorge trusted me, so I'm familiar with the location, he said, his tone resolute. With this new information, Lorenzo, Salazar, Vicente, and the police set out on a new rescue mission. The urgency in their actions was palpable. We have to find her. We can't let Jorge win. Pilar deserves to be found and brought back to her family, Lorenzo declared with steely determination, his eyes set on the road ahead. The group navigated through winding streets and dilapidated neighborhoods, guided by Vicente's directions. As they approached the remote area, the tension was palpable. The sense of urgency grew with every step they took, each moment feeling like it could bring them closer to Pilar or lead them further into despair. The neighborhood was a stark contrast to the rest of the city, a labyrinth of narrow, poorly lit streets with rundown buildings and an air of neglect. Vicente led them through the maze, his familiarity with the area providing a crucial advantage. They finally arrived at a nondescript house at the edge of the neighborhood. It was old and worn, its paint peeling and windows grimy. The house seemed to exude an air of desolation, matching the grim reality of their search. "She might be inside," Vicente said, his voice tense. "We need to be careful." Salazar nodded, his face set in determination. "Let's go. We'll approach carefully and find out if Pilar is here." They approached the house cautiously, each step feeling heavier with the weight of their hopes and fears. Lorenzo and Salazar exchanged a look of silent resolve, knowing that whatever lay ahead, they had to face it together. As they reached the door, Vicente knocked softly, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of movement. The door creaked open slowly, and a faint voice could be heard from within. "Hello," Vicente called out, his voice steady but filled with concern. Inside, the house was dimly lit, the air thick with dust and the smell of neglect. Pilar's presence was not immediately apparent, but a faint sound, a soft, distressed cry, led them to a small, cluttered room at the back of the house. There, lying on a tattered mattress, was Pilar. Her appearance was more worn than they had seen before, but her eyes were alert and filled with a mix of hope and confusion as she recognized her rescuers. "Mom!" Lorenzo exclaimed, rushing to her side, his voice trembling with relief and emotion. Pilar's eyes filled with tears as she reached out to him, her voice breaking. "Lorenzo, is it you?" Lorenzo took her hand gently, his heart swelling with both sorrow and joy. "Yes, Mom, it's me. We're here to take you home." Salazar and Vicente stepped forward, providing support and ensuring Pilar's safety. The police began documenting the scene and preparing for the next steps in ensuring Pilar's well-being. As they left the house and began their journey back, Lorenzo held Pilar's hand tightly, feeling a sense of profound relief and connection. The road to recovery would be long, but the reunion marked the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where healing and hope could start to mend the wounds of the past. The drive away from the neighborhood was quiet, filled with a sense of cautious optimism. Lorenzo, Salazar, and Pilar were finally on their way home, each step forward a testament to their resilience and determination to overcome the darkness that had once shrouded their lives. Salazar looked at Lorenzo with pride. "You're right, Lorenzo. We're going to bring her back, no matter what happens," he said, his voice steady with renewed inner strength. When they arrived at the location, they were enveloped in an eerie silence. Vicente led them to an isolated house on the outskirts of town. The place appeared abandoned, but there were subtle signs of recent activity. An overturned pot, a stray shoe. "It's here. This is Jorge's hideout," Vicente said, pointing to the house. The police moved into position, preparing themselves for any potential resistance. Lorenzo and Salazar waited anxiously, the tension in the air almost palpable. Suddenly, a scream pierced through the silence from inside the house. The police sprang into action, breaking down the door and storming inside. Within minutes, they emerged with a fragile and disoriented woman, Pilar. Her eyes, though clouded with confusion, locked onto Salazar, and tears welled up as recognition dawned. "Dad, it's you?" Pilar said weakly, her voice filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. Salazar rushed to her side, tears streaming down his face. "Yes, daughter. We finally found you," he replied, his voice trembling with a deep, overwhelming joy. Pilar's gaze then fell upon Lorenzo, and her eyes widened in surprise and recognition as she noticed the necklace he wore. "That necklace is mine," she said, astonished and emotional. Lorenzo, overwhelmed by the moment, embraced his mother tightly. "Yes, it's yours. It was thanks to this necklace that Grandpa and I were able to find you." "Mom," he said, his voice breaking with a flood of tears. Pilar, still disoriented and trying to process everything, managed to speak. "Mom," she said, her voice a mix of confusion and relief. There was a brief silence as Pilar struggled to piece together her fragmented memories. Then, as if a light had flickered on in her mind, she said, "I put that necklace next to my baby who was taken from me." Salazar's eyes filled with tears of joy and realization. He took Pilar's hands gently. "It's him. The baby is ours, Lorenzo," he said, his voice choked with emotion. Pilar turned to Lorenzo with a look of disbelief and profound joy. "My son, is it you?" she asked, her voice trembling with hope and love. Lorenzo smiled through his tears, feeling a deep connection and renewal with his mother. "Yes, Mom. It's me," he said, the words carrying the weight of their shared past and the promise of a new beginning. Pilar pulled her son into a tight embrace, tears flowing freely. "I have memory problems, but I always knew I had a son. I'm so happy that you found me," she said, her voice filled with a profound mix of emotion and relief. Salazar placed a comforting hand on Lorenzo's shoulder, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't known in years. "Now we are together again. We will take care of each other as it should have always been," he said, his voice resolute and loving. Lorenzo nodded, holding his mother close. "Yes, Grandpa. We will be a family, finally," he replied, feeling a deep inner peace and fulfillment. Pilar looked at the two men with gratitude, feeling enveloped in their love and protection. "Thank you for not giving up on me. You have given me a new chance to live," she said, her smile weak but sincere. The reunion was a powerful moment of healing for all three. Though they knew the road ahead would be challenging, the love and hope they shared gave them the strength to face whatever came next. Together, they began the process of rebuilding their lives, united as a family once more. Pilar was taken to a nearby hospital where she began her recovery. The clinical environment, while impersonal, was calm, and the medical staff were attentive, providing her with the best care possible. Lorenzo and Salazar remained by her side, offering their support as Pilar faced the long and arduous path to recovery. In the quiet moments at the hospital, as Pilar slowly regained her strength, the three of them found solace in their renewed bond. Each visit, each shared moment, was a testament to their enduring love and resilience. The journey ahead would be one of healing and adaptation, but for now, they could savor the joy of being together again, as a family. "Everything is going to be okay, Mom. We are here with you," Lorenzo said, trying to maintain his composure. He knew that his and Salazar's presence was crucial to Pilar's recovery. Pilar, lying in the hospital bed, stared at the ceiling, her mind working to piece together fragmented memories. "I'm beginning to remember," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of her recollections. "It was Gloria. She took me. She made me get into a car that Jorge was driving." Tears streamed down her face as the memories resurfaced. Salazar squeezed Pilar's hand, feeling her pain as if it were his own. "You are strong, my daughter. We will overcome this together," he said with a firm voice, though it was laden with emotion. The days passed slowly, but Pilar began to show signs of improvement. With the constant support of Lorenzo and Salazar, she started to recover fragments of her memory, recalling both the joyful and sorrowful moments of her past. "I remember you, Lorenzo, when you were a baby. I always knew I had a son. I loved you from the first moment," Pilar said with a weak but sincere smile. Lorenzo's eyes welled up with tears. "I love you too, Mom. I will never leave you again," he replied, holding her hand with tenderness. He felt a profound connection with Pilar, a bond that had been missing for so long. Salazar determined that justice must be served, contacted the authorities, and requested the arrest of Gloria and Jorge. With sufficient evidence and testimonies, both were taken into custody, facing the consequences of their heinous actions. "Justice has been done, my daughter. They will pay for the evil they inflicted upon us," Salazar said, his expression a mix of relief and resolve as he looked at Pilar. With Jorge and Gloria in prison, the Salazar family began to find a semblance of peace. Pilar continued her recovery in the hospital, surrounded by the unwavering love and support of Lorenzo and Salazar. "Mom, you are the strongest person I know. We will overcome this together," Lorenzo said, feeling his bond with Pilar grow stronger each day. Salazar, his eyes glistening with tears, embraced Lorenzo and Pilar. "We are a family again. We will rebuild our lives, united by hope and forgiveness," he said, his voice resolute and full of determination. The Salazar family entered a new phase of renewal and redemption. Lorenzo found peace and understanding about his past, realizing that love and hope could triumph over any tragedy. They began to rebuild their lives, united by the promise of a brighter future. As Pilar continued her recovery, Lorenzo and Salazar promised to always stand by her side, helping her every step of the way. Their journey had been marked by immense pain and suffering, but also by love, forgiveness, and hope. Together as a family, they knew they could face any challenge that came their way. As we come to the end of this deeply emotional journey, we've witnessed the incredible power of family, forgiveness, and the pursuit of justice. Lorenzo, Salazar, and Pilar's story reminds us of the strength we can find in each other, even after years of separation and pain. Through their trials and triumphs, we've learned about resilience, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds that hold us together. What about you? What have you learned from this poignant tale of struggle and reconciliation? Share with us one key lesson you've taken away and how you plan to apply it in your own life. Your insights might inspire others who are facing their challenges. If you found this video moving and meaningful, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content that touches the heart and inspires the soul. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing more stories and lessons with you in the future.